What is going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. We're going to talk about a bunch of different classes today, and not a bunch, but several, and the changes that are going to be happening to them in 10.0.5. If you've been living under another large rock, then you may not know that the patch is dropping today. If you're watching this on Tuesday, it's dropping right now, and I'm going to get this video in hopefully before the patch goes live. Let me talk to you about some buffs that are coming for different classes. I've already talked about the Guardian Druid stuff that's happening, all the Priest buffs that are happening. There's a few more classes I want to cover today, so let's just dive right into it. Before I get to the ones that I want to actually do a deep dive on, honorable mentions here to Brewmaster. Brewmaster is in a fine position already, even though a lot of the public opinion on Brewmaster is that it's really bad. It's just that people are bad at playing Brew. It's actually fine right now. It's getting a bunch of massive buffs. The only retraction is that Resonating Fist damage is going down by 45%. This is fine. Their Resonant Fist damage is way too high. I was watching Hero do a dungeon the other day, and it was like 50% of his damage or something. So big buffs for Brewmaster, which is really cool. Mistweaver's getting a bunch of new abilities. One of the biggest ones going to be that it gets Shanelin's Gift back. So this is like its old Legion artifact ability, and then there's a new talent called Xiaohao's Lessons, which like buffs you when you do Shanelin's Gift. So really cool combo going on there. On top of that, Warriors. Big honorable mention for Warriors down here. They're getting a bunch of buffs. It looks like Fury and Arms are both getting tons of buffs. It's basically a 10 to 20% buff across the board for both Arms and Fury, which is really cool. Now, let me just say that most of the changes that are actually coming in to the 10.0.5 patch are really buffs to Mythic Plus in particular. Group content, AoE damage, AoE healing, burst healing for a lot of the healers so they can react to some of the quick, fast-paced healing that comes out in Mythic Plus. It's a lot more bursty, right? As opposed to Raid, which is much more predictable. So that's what a lot of both the damage and the healing buffs seem to be aimed towards either creating more burst damage or dealing with more burst damage that's affecting your team. So let's start out with Feral Druid, and we're going to talk about the talents. There's a monk here. Is he following me? There we go. We're going to talk about a couple talents in particular that I think are really interesting and that are going to make a big difference for your build. So here's the build that I would run. There's another talent that I'm missing somewhere. Maybe not. Maybe this is it. Yeah. That's probably fine. Yeah. Okay, so this is the build that I would run now. There's a couple talents here that are really interesting that have been buffed. And they are, in particular, Taste for Blood and then Relentless Predator, which is the energy cost of Ferocious Bite down by 40%. This one here, though, Taste for Blood, is the big kicker for Feral Druid. This is what I want to focus on. And I want to focus on it because I think that there might be a bite build coming for Feral Druid. So right now, the main filler that you use in an AoE rotation is, of course, Primal Wrath. You get in here, you start generating combo points, you press Primal Wrath, and then it's like Brutal Slash into a Thrash, and you Primal Wrath again. And then if you get a proc, a free proc from Apex Predator on your Ferocious Bite, then of course there's a free proc right there. I would press it, and boom, I would get a bunch of bite damage in. And you can see I got another free proc right there. You can see Ferocious Bite does its damage down here, and then the Rampant Ferocity talent makes it cleave. Ferocious Bite hits all nearby enemies affected by your rip for 35% of the damage dealt. That's a really important tooltip to understand that, because rip can hit all enemies within 8 yards. All enemies. There is no cap on the number of rips that a Primal Wrath can put. Okay? Just keep that in mind. If you have 20 guys in front of you, you can rip 20 guys at once, which is really important because that means your Ferocious Bite, sorry guys, put the sub there, your Ferocious Bite will then cleave to 20 people as well, okay? Very, very important to remember that. So, why is this so significant? Well, it's because the amount of bleeds that we can actually get going is quite a few. You've got Rake here, you've got your Rip from Primal Wrath, and you have Thrash. Those are your main three. So we already have 15% more damage from Taste for Blood. 5% more damage to Ferocious Bite per bleed on the enemy. Okay, so we've already got 3 bleeds going. Then, because of Rip and Tear, we get an additional bleed called Tear. So now we have 4 bleeds going. So that means our Ferocious Bite does 20% more damage. During Berserk, We also bleed enemies with Berserk Frenzy. During Berserk, your combo point generating abilities bleed the target for an additional 125% of their damage over 8 seconds. So now we have 5 bleeds, and then we have Feral Frenzy for a 6th bleed. So, at least on one target anyway. My point is, you can actually put all your bleeds out and then Feral Frenzy one target and then hit Ferocious Bite on that target, and you'll be getting 25 to 30% more Ferocious Bite damage on that target, and then that will cleave to all targets affected by your rip because of Rampant Ferocity. That is a really big buff to your damage. 20 to 30% more damage. It's always 20%, sometimes 30%. That's a lot of extra bite damage. So what I was thinking is, you could potentially do a build where you drop Circle of Life and Death and instead take Relentless Predator. The reason we want to drop Circle of Life and Death is because we don't want our dots falling off so quickly. If we have Circle of Life and Death, our dots fall off too quickly, and then all we can do is spend time pressing Primal Wrath over and over and over again. But without the Circle of Life and Death, with Circle of Life and Death, our Primal Wrath rip lasts for like 9 seconds, 8.5 seconds. Without Circle of Life and Death, it lasts the full 12 seconds. That buys us time to try and do a bunch of bites, and then only use Primal Wrath as a maintenance buff to keep our rip up. So let me show you what I mean. Instead of pressing Primal Wrath all the time, we're just going to press it occasionally, which means we could get rid of Tear Open Wounds. That's something I would want to think about. Maybe you completely get rid of Tear Open Wounds. That's an idea here. But let's pretend like we just don't for now. And we're going to try and bite as much as we can, okay? I'm also going to add in Convoke, because Convoke puts in a bunch of bites for free. Convoke always casts Ferocious Bite at least like a couple times. Usually it's 3 or 4 times. And remember, our Ferocious Bite is now going to do 20% more damage to 30%, 40%. Sorry, 30% if we're in our Berserk window. So Convoke is another huge button here. Watch our Rampant Ferocity damage on this pull. We're going to get our dots rolling. Okay. Dots, dots. Then we're going to Thrash. Then we're going to go like this. Okay. Then we're going to... You get into our Berserk, and then we're going to Convoke. So now there's 4 dots on the enemy, so we're getting maximum damage there. Our rip is going, so we're just going to press Ferocious Bite. There's a free Ferocious Bite. There's another Ferocious Bite. We're going to keep Ferocious Biting. We're going to refresh once with Primal Wrath, then we're back to biting. Bite, bite, bite. Ferocious Bite. As soon as our Primal Wrath is in range of falling off, like it is right now, we're going to refresh it. Okay, then we're going to bite, and we're going to keep trying to bite as much as we can. Okay, there's another bite. Our bite also costs way, way less energy than even our Primal Wrath does. Our Primal Wrath is actually 20 energy. Our bite is down to 15 energy now. So it's always available to be pressed. Okay, we got a free one there. We'll refresh our Primal. Here we go. Keep going a little bit. We'll do one more Convoke here in a second. Before we do our Convoke, let's make sure all of our dots are up. Very important. Let's use our free Ferocious Bite. Okay, all of our dots are up now. Let's Convoke. We're getting 20% more damage here on all the bites that happen during our Convoke. So let's look at our damage now. Rampant Ferocity was way more damage. Our rip uptime was still 90%. It could have been 100%. I just didn't play it perfectly. You can still get 100% uptime on your rip, but now your top damage becomes Rampant Ferocity. I think this is a really interesting idea and potentially a new build idea because you can get all the extra damage from Tasteful Blood. This used to be like 3% more damage for all the bleeds on the enemy, and it was a 2-pointer, not a 1-pointer. Now it's a 1-pointer. It's worth 5% of the bleeds. 5% per bleed. So I just think there's something here, guys. There's potentially a bite build here with Convoke and, of course, with the Berserk Frenzy that you're getting there and with Feral Frenzy. I didn't even use Feral Frenzy. I completely forgot about that. I didn't have anywhere to put my bars. I'm so sorry about that. But you can understand what I'm saying. If you had Feral Frenzy, it would be probably even more damage there. Just understand the point I'm trying to make here, that there might be a bite build in Feral Druid's future, and it might actually work out just fine. And then you could probably get rid of, like, Tear Open Wounds and instead spec into something else up here. You could go over and get Merciless Claws maybe to get more Brutal Slash damage, or just get more energy regen. We were kind of low on energy regen there. That might be an option. What I really also like about this build is the single target damage implication. Taking this talent the primary button that you press in single target is Ferocious Bite. When you're in single target, you're using your regular Rip, which lasts for 24 seconds. As soon as you put Rip up there, you don't worry about it for another like 22 seconds, and then you want to refresh it. So most of the time on single target, you're going to be pressing Ferocious Bite, which now is going to be buffed by 20% to 30%, depending on what cooldowns you have rolling. So I actually think this has got some legs, and it's going to give you that single target buff and an AoE buff. It's very interesting, okay? Let's move on to Holy Paladin. All right, guys, here's our Holy Paladin. Forgive me for the transmog. It's pretty atrocious, I know. Don't worry about it. I just got the new tier set shoulders, I think, so I was wearing those. Here's what's happening with Holy Paladin, okay? There's a really major change that's happened, and that has to do with Avenging Crusader. Avenging Crusader now costs 5 Holy Power. It used to cost mana, and it used to cost a ton of mana, like about 20,000 mana. I only have 250,000 mana. I think it cost 20,000 mana to cast it before. So this used to be a cooldown that was really, really cool, but it was annoying because it cost so much mana. It was so detrimental to you. So I think that for that reason, it's really, really cool that it's here and that it now costs 5 Holy Power instead. You might think, well, this is more limiting, Zuko, because you're going to have to build all the way up to 5 Holy Power just to spend it. Yeah, but like Holy Paladin does not have an issue building Holy Power at all. Things like Bestow Faith gives you Holy Power. Holy Shock gives you Holy Power, right? If I have my beacon on myself and I hit a Flash of Light, I get a Holy Power. There's another Holy Power. Here's a Holy Power right here from my Bestow Faith. And you can see, it just doesn't take long at all. It really doesn't. Now I have 5. I can cast Avenging Crusader, no problem. Boom, right there. Now, another way to get 5 Holy Power incredibly quickly is to just pop Divine Toll. So that's really insane. Like, I can be in wings, I can just pop Divine Toll. I'm right back to 5 Holy Power once again. So this is never going to be an issue for Holy Paladin whatsoever. It just won't be. It's just not going to be a problem, guys. So that's the first thing I want to talk about, is that AC now costs Holy Power, which is really interesting. And it also has, wait, a reduced cooldown? What's going on? I guess it has, it's a 45-second cooldown now. That's right. Oh my god, I totally forgot about that. Yes, that's right. I completely forgot about this part. This is the craziest part. So, not only is it 5 Holy Power, it costs no mana, so you save all this mana. It only has a 45-second cooldown. The old one was the original Avenging Wrath, which is a 2-minute cooldown. So, this is insane, and this obviously makes this cooldown, in my opinion, the go-to cooldown now for Holy Paladin. A 45-second Avenging Crusader, it's already back. You can extend Avenging Crusader with Zealot's Paragon. Hammer of Wrath and Judgment deal more damage and extend the duration of Avenging Crusader by 0.5 seconds. So you could pop AC and then realistically keep it up for probably, like, the base duration of it right here is for 15 seconds. You could keep it up for probably 20 to 25 seconds. I bet you at least 20 seconds, maybe even 25. And if you do that, then you're almost halfway back to the cooldown. You are basically halfway back to the cooldown coming back again. So, like, the amount of times you'll be able to use this thing and get it to come back is going to be amazing. On top of that, you can proc Avenging Crusader with Awakening, of course. I'm going to try and do it right here. It's probably not going to work, but I'm going to do Divine Toll into Awakening. There we go. Then I'll extend it. Okay. Let's use our Holy Power as we get it. Okay. Generate some Holy Power here. I do need to use a Word of Glory. That'll give me a Light of Dawn. So there's lots of ways to try and proc it to get an AC proc, and if I don't get one, that's okay. I'm still extending it with Judgment and with Hammer of Wrath. You can see we're still going here. Didn't get a proc, but that's okay. Let's just see how long we made it last there. Avenger Crusader right there was up for 26 seconds. I wasn't even paying attention to it. It was up for 26 seconds. That's with no Awakening proc. So my point is, this is an insane cooldown now. It is absolutely busted. It costing 5 Holy Power is amazing. It doesn't cost any mana anymore. The other amazing thing that's coming in for Holy Paladin is that Blessing of Summer, Blessing of Winter in particular, this one right here, now gives you mana back. Bless a friendly healer for 30 seconds, restoring 1% of your mana missing, 1% of your mana every 2 seconds. So if I put this on myself, You can see I've got the buff up here, restoring 1% of my mana every 2 seconds. This equals 15% of my total mana over the 30-second period of time. So that is really cool. Not only are we saving mana because Avenging Crusader doesn't cost mana anymore, we're getting every 3 minutes, we can get a bunch of our mana back, or we can give it to another healer in a raid. So I actually love the new flexibility of Blessing of Winter. I think it's amazing. So that's the major change I want to talk about. There are a couple of other changes, like there's a buff to Barrier of Faith and a couple of other little things, but realistically, guys, this is the big change. I think Avenging Crusader will absolutely be the go-to play in any content for Holy Paladin because it just heals for so much. When you throw that Judgment, when you hit them with Crusader Strike, it heals for so much, and you can extend your wings with Zealot's Paragon, and you can proc your wings with Awakening. So, like, your uptime on Avenging Crusader now is going to be through the roof. It's going to be crazy. So, I can't wait to take this into my keys. I can't wait to even try it in a raid. I think it's going to be incredible. And I think if you have ever wondered about playing Holy Paladin as a healer, get in there and try Avenging Crusader because it's going to be completely broken now. And make sure you're using Blessing of Summer so you can bless people with the Winter mana regen. Okay, on to the next heal. It's going to be Ele Shaman. All right, guys, here we are on Ele Shaman. There's not a whole lot to talk about here, actually. I'll just put on the screen exactly what's been going on. You can see that there's been buffs to all the damage, basically. It's all going up for Ele Shaman. And the biggest one is going to be the 10% buff to Earthquake. That is really the big one. So Ele Shaman, every single build of Ele Shaman in Mythic Plus in particular, uses Earthquake as its AoE finisher, right? It's your AoE spender. So you're still going to be getting, you're just going to be getting lots of extra damage with Earthquake, basically. That's the bottom line. So not only is there a Chain Lightning buff here, which is really good, but you're going to get that Earthquake buff, and it's going to be awesome for you. So yeah, I think that just in general, these buffs to Ele are really a welcome change. I think Ellie's going to be slapping. I don't actually think Ele was in a really bad place in general. Both the Wildfire build and a couple different lightning builds that I've been talking about with people, both those builds actually work really well. So if you've been wondering about playing Ele, this is definitely going to push Ele, I think, into the almost S tier sort of place. I think it's a really strong ranged class now. So you're just getting a flat buff. If you've been playing Ele, you can rejoice, okay, for that. Now, let's move on to Resto Shaman. All right, so Resto Shaman here, we're looking at one of the biggest changes coming in is, of course, going to be the Acid Rain, getting 120% more damage. This is really insane. But there are buffs across the board. We're getting some Healing Surge buffs, which is really cool. Always good. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, a lot of these buffs are tailored towards Mythic Plus. You don't really use Healing Surge in a raid that much, so big Healing Surge buff coming in there, and then a bunch of healing across the board for Resto Shaman over a couple different notes. The big one I want to focus on today, though, is the Acid Rain change. So this is going to be doing a lot of nature damage every second, up to 6 enemies inside your Healing Rain. Really, really big stuff right there. So basically for Resto Shaman now, you want to make sure that you're keeping Healing Rain on the floor, and the combo between Stormkeeper and Healing Rain damage is now kind of insane. Watch this damage here. We do big Healing Rain, or big Lightning at the beginning there, Chain Lightning, and I've got my Healing Rain down. Watch the cooldown of Healing Rain. It'll fall off right at the last second, so I'm going to recast it right away. You can see it'll fall off. I can recast it. So I think a big skill potentially for AoE damage for Resto Shamans now is going to make sure you've got Healing Rain on the floor as much as possible. And it's going to give you that passive AoE damage, which is something that I think Resto Shaman has been lacking. Definitely. Passive AoE damage has not been something that they've really had. So this is going to really buff that. Doubling the damage of Healing Rain, I think, is absolutely going to do the trick. And you can combo this, of course, with things like Ancestral Guidance, which is now going to heal everybody for a crazy amount of damage, because not only is my Healing Rain healing, my Healing Rain is doing damage. So it's double dipping in terms of how Astral Guidance works there, okay? So that's it right there. It's very simple for Resto Shaman. Acid Rain damage through the roof, even higher than my Chain Lightning. Even with Stormkeeper Chain Lightning, it's higher. So this is a very serious buff, guys, to the damage. Not only that, but Resto Shaman, of course, got buffs to Master of the Elements, which I'm not taking right now. But this is something I should take, because you can basically buff the healing, like your next healing spell, by 20%. Like, you could buff a chain heal by 20% with Master of the Elements. That is a significant amount of healing you can get from that. And then, of course, the Lava Burst damage coming through and the Flame Shock damage coming through. So just really good single target damage coming through once again for Ele Shaman. I think it's kind of the king of single target damage for healers. It's very strong, actually. With Stormkeeper, plus these new buffs that are coming in. And then the Master of the Elements buff. Again, you can spend it on damage, or you can spend it on healing. You could go Lava Burst into Lightning Bolt and get that extra damage. Or you can go Lava Burst into like a Chain Heal and get extra healing as well. So big changes for Resto Shaman. I think it's looking really, really good in terms of Mythic Plus. And yeah, I'm excited for these changes for sure. All right, that's it, guys. That's it for the video. I just wanted to touch on a few different specs there that I have played and I've been looking around with. I think the Feral Druid changes are very significant. There could be a bite build in the future for Feral Druid. I think the Holy Paladin changes are insane. The mana saving that you're going to have with Blessing of Winter and the fact that AC only costs Holy Power now is crazy strong. Really, really strong for Holy Paladin. Like the Ele Shaman changes are good. They're not huge, but it's always good to get a 10% buff across the board. And then the Resto Shaman changes are absolutely massive with Acid Rain coming in, getting a double damage buff, and then all the other spells, single target damage getting buffed as well. So lots of good things happening right now in the patch. It's just going live today. So if you're excited about any of these specs, jump in and play them in Dragonflight patch 10.0.5. I think you're going to like it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.